Getting ready for the show, we have to hydro all the locomotives. We've got 3 in service now. Fill the boiler full of water and pump it up to pressure to test the boiler, and then check them all out mechanically, make sure they're all in running order, and fuel them all up. And after that's all prepared and ready to go, we hopefully have already done the track work during the summer and don't have to worry too much about any of that. But sometimes we do have to do a little extra track work just before the show to stick a few ties in here and there and whatever. We have usually 2 engines fired up during the show, pulling the train, and then the third one is either for standby, or if somebody wants to see all 3 engines out there, we'll put an engine between the 2 trains. In the morning we have to come out here real bright and early before any of the campers are awake and oil up the journals on the steam locomotive that's down underneath the running gear. Usually have to do it from down here in the pit and get a fire up, and we usually take 2 to 3 hours to get the engine fired up in the morning, so we want to have it hot by 9 o'clock, so it gives us a pretty early start to have it hot by 9.
Well, all the coaches have to be gone through and cleaned internally. They get dirty sitting around all winter. Air brake systems have to be checked and make sure everything's properly lubricated.
No, the coaches typically come out 10 days to 2 weeks ahead of the show, and what all is done to the coaches depends on what was done in the previous year as far as maintenance, but typically coaches are pulled out, and the trucks, the journals, will be inspected for lubrication, and possibly center bearings be lubricated about every other year. That's where the truck swivels underneath the car. And then of course the cars are thoroughly cleaned out, windows all cleaned and swept out, and this is all done by volunteers, and that takes a lot of people. It takes a lot of people to do it all. The volunteer effort, or volunteerism, is highly important to any volunteer organization, especially this one. It's just common sense that the more people you have willing to work and work hard, the better organization you can have and the more you can accomplish. The more of your goals that you have, you can attain. The more projects, the more ground you can cover. But it seems that we have plenty of volunteer effort around showtime, which is fine and good. We need people then, but also there's a lot of work that needs to be done during the year to maintain the railroad and keep it operating.
Nothing gets done unless it's volunteer. All the ticket sales are volunteer, the gift shop sales are volunteer, all that track work I was talking about all summer long is all volunteer. There wouldn't be a railroad here if there wasn't volunteers.
During the show we'll probably have, I'd say up to 150 volunteers working just for the railroad. When you take all the conductors and the different shifts, the ticket crews, engine crews, the shop force, last many years there's been a full steam shop operation here going during the show, as well as the trains running. But we'll have people from every walk of life here. Bankers, lawyers, barbers, you name it, everything. So there's no class distinction here. I mean, when you're on the grounds, you are equal to everybody else. You know, it isn't. It's kind of neat. Kind of neat.
Volunteers make up a good share of the railroad. In fact, it's all a volunteer organization, and it takes the volunteers to make Midwest Central roll. Even the ones that just come in for 5 days, and the rest of the people work year-round. It takes everybody to make Midwest Central roll and help put on the show. But it always seems to get done. It's very remarkable. When the show day comes, the work just seems to fall in place. The show just goes on. It's very remarkable how good a job the volunteers do with this.
I think the reason I volunteer is because I got my love of trains from my father. So I always enjoyed volunteering in the gift shop or ticket sales or wherever, because I felt that I could do that. I could lend my services to that portion of the show and of the Midwest Central Railroad. you know, when you learn about history, you learn about the importance of the railroad in the building of America. But when you meet the people, all of them have a connection to a railroad somewhere. It might be their grandfather or their father or their son, or maybe they've just taken a train ride that they really remember. And they all come to that shop and they're looking and they reminisce of those experiences and those memories. And even though that railroad line might be defunct, it hasn't existed for years, it's still alive because of the memory that those people hold of it and their experience with it, or a member of their family's experience with it. And I find that fascinating. I love to hear their stories, and I love to meet those people and talk with them. And you really get to do a lot of that because you're there, you know, in the public's eye with the gift shop.
You can be put to work on almost anything. If you had any particular skill, we'd try to utilize that first of all. If you were an accountant per se, there's always books to keep on the railroad, and if you were willing to do that, we'd put you to work with that. If you had a carpentry background, or you like working woodworking, we could put you to work with that. Any particular skill, like in my case I'm a photographer, so I try to use some of my photography skill to help out. And other times, working 5 days a week, your full-time job is that, well, you come down here to do something totally different, and we'll let you do that too. Anything from skilled labor to just general labor, there's always work to do on a railroad.
Well, some of the future projects we have in mind are relatively major ones, and we're going to require a lot of help, a lot of extra hands. Some of those would be the possibility of the main line extension, or the construction of the Union Station, or coach building, or the resurrection of the locomotives 1 and 2. The Union Station is an idea that's been around for quite some time. It would involve extending our main line around to the south side of the present museums to come up in close proximity to the trolley line, and it would be a shared station or a Union Station with the trolleys and the narrow gauge railroad, where people could exit from the trolley system, and after about 5 steps they'd be on the narrow gauge system to transport them on up to the north end of the whole operation. And it could also be used off-season as a museum or possibly shops. It would just